So we're going to cover the 5 free things you can do to improve your experience in iRacing. Hi, welcome back to another video. Now that I've got some experience in iRacing, I just wanted to share some of the tips and tricks that I've been using to improve my experience in iRacing. I've covered some of these things in more or less detail in some of the other videos, but I wanted to put them all in one place. So let's go with the 5 free, easy tips to improve your experience in iRacing. So here we are, in the car. Probably the most important thing we're going to cover in this video, field of view. Now I am not part of the field of view police, but what I will say is if you want to get up to speed quickly in a sim, you need to make sure that your field of view is as close to real life as you can practically do. The reason for that is quite simple. It's that if things out of your windscreen, in this case your monitor, look like the size you would expect them to look if you were really sat in the car, it makes judging distances much easier, which makes judging your speed easier, which ultimately means you can lap more consistently. If your field of view is very wrong, that means that when you're going to have to relearn what things look like, so that barrier at that height feels realistic to me as I look out the side window on this monitor, or I look across out the front that you can see there. And so it makes easier for my brain to process that I'm driving past something that's kind of height, and therefore it's that kind of distance to the 300 meter board that I can just about make out down the bottom there. And I've got to say, in iRacing it is really easy to adjust things like your field of view. So let's have a quick look at that. So it's really easy to make these adjustments in iRacing. What we need to do is go into the options, and then at the bottom here we've got the graphics option, and depending on what screen setup you've got, what resolution you're running, that's where we can make the changes, and iRacing will do all the calculations for us. So you can see here that I'm running 3 screens at 1080. And I've got that set to 3. Obviously if you had a single screen you'd change that to 1 and you wouldn't have the multi-projection. And then you can put in the width of your monitors, including and excluding the bezels, your distance from your eye to the screen, and if you are running triples, the angle of those side screens, and that calculates your field of view for you, which is great. It's probably one of the easiest options I've come across with regards to setting up a field of view. It does all the calculation for you, and there it is. So once it's done those calculations for you, it's just a case of clicking done and everything will be set. Now it's worth bearing in mind, you can see on the screen at the moment just my center monitor. I'm fortunate enough to have the side monitors so I can see the side, which means that what you might be looking at the moment will probably look quite windowed because I can actually see further than that. But that's the correct field of view for where I am, and I have to say it does feel right when I'm in here. The wing mirror looks the right size, the dashboard looks like it's going out to the side of me, so it's everything I want from field of view. Now obviously you can adjust that as you feel that might be necessary for you. And if you are running a single monitor, one thing you really then want to consider having is quite simple, again in the options. Just make sure you've got buttons set on your wheel there that allow you to look left and right, and that's just going to mean that because you've got quite a windowed view on your field of view, you can glance either way if that's something that suits you. The next thing I want to talk about is the UI within the game, and that is what you see on screen while we're driving around. So right now you can see we've got at the top right frames per second at the moment, some force feedback and load settings. We've got one of our black boxes in the bottom right, the relative at this moment. We've got chat bottom left, currently all teams if I was to open my mic. And I've got a little bit of the pedal, steering and gear feedback that you can't see at the moment because it's behind my head. But we might want to move those around, so there's somewhere that we prefer, we can see them a bit easier. For example, right now you can't see my pedal and wheel inputs because my big face is in the way. But also there's other stuff that's not on the screen at the moment, like flags, track cut warnings, that sort of thing, that we might want to just check where they are and move them somewhere a little bit more helpful. So let's have a look at how we do that. So the easiest way to start moving around what you've got on screen at the moment is to press Alt and K. You can see you kind of get a little box around what we've got on the screen at the moment, and you can click and drag those around wherever you want. So it might be that I feel I want to move my inputs just a little bit higher up on the side here, and I could do that. But this still doesn't solve the problem of, for example, the flags. I don't know where they're going to be displayed at the moment, or how I move anything off of this center screen. You can probably see it's hitting the side at the moment there when I'm trying to move my FPS counter. That's not me stopping. It won't let me move onto the other screen, and I might want to put it somewhere over there because that works better for me. So let's have a quick look at how we do that. So what you need to do, you need to exit out of the sim and go into your file explorer. This might look daunting if it's something you're not really used to, but I promise you it's not. You just need to navigate to your documents folder, find the iRacing folder, and then we're looking for this app.ini, and that's a configuration setting file, and we just want to right click on that, and we're going to choose to open that with the notepad. So when that does open up, as I said, it might look a bit intimidating. Please don't worry, there's just one or two little changes we're going to make, and it's going to make life much easier. Don't be intimidated by it, I promise. It's okay. So once you've got it open, you just want to start scrolling down, and we're going to make our way down. You can see that they're set in each kind of heading. You've got base shaker, cam tool, commercial, drive screen, and we want to keep coming down until we get to graphics. So there's two changes we're going to make in there at the moment if you're running triple screens. If you're not, there's only one change we're going to make. So the way to look at this document is if it's a 0, that means no or off. If it's a 1, that means yes or on. So first thing, triple screen, drive UI full screen. It currently equals 0. And what that's saying is it lets triple headed driving UI expand to the full display. So I want that on, because I want to be able to put some of the boxes on either one of my side screens, and at the moment with that on 0 I can't. So it's really simple. I'm just going to click there, I'm going to do backspace, and then I'm going to write 1. That changes that from off to on. The next one we're going to do, and this is what we're going to change regardless of how many screens we're running, is force visible when moved. That's currently 0. Let's force all movable controls to become visible when moving UI elements. I'll be honest, I don't know why this isn't just on as default, in my opinion. But what that means is, when we're moving things around as we were a minute ago, we can see everything. Everything will be on the screen, so we can then decide where we want everything to show up. So again, I'm just going to click next to it, I'm going to backspace, and I'm going to change that to 1. Now we've done that, all we need to do is go File, Save. We can close this notepad now and reopen the sim. So we're back in the sim, sat on the back straight at Watkins Glen in the Ferrari, and this time we're going to press Alt and K. Now you can see there's lots more stuff popping up. You can see that it's overlapping at the top there, and that doesn't matter because lots of those messages are never going to be up at the same time. But let's have a look where we can move things and how it works more for us. You will notice some things, like our relative box that was here, is gone. And that's because it's now all the way over on my right hand screen. So here it is. I can bring that back, but what I'm going to do is just move that over to the side. You can't see that on what I'm recording, but it's there. Voice chat, I'm going to put up here so I can see who's chatting. And the spotter message, I think that's fine pretty much where it is. Now I want to set this somewhere so that you can see my inputs. I think that'll do us nicely just there. Now another thing that we can see at the bottom here is session timer. Now I've got the round wheel on, rim on at the moment. I usually use the Formula 1 for the Ferrari, but I've got this on right now. I can't see that session timer at all. So I need to move that somewhere that makes more sense for me. And I'm just going to put it up here. I think that's a clear, easy place. It's not really going to be in the way of anything, and that's where I can have it. So that looks about right for what I want. So I'm going to press Alt K. Everything's saved, and it's currently just showing what it would be showing for my session right now, which is because I'm stopped. It's telling me I need to press an Alt Escape. But now hopefully you can see my pedal inputs. We've got the chat at the top, my relative at the bottom right. My off track at the top there. That should work out quite nicely for us. So the next thing I want to talk about is pedals. I think pedals are probably, you can be argued either way, but for me I think it's probably one of the most important bits of kit to have set up right. Yes, your wheel is vital, your force feedback is vital, but you need to have that consistent brake feel so you're not locking up all the time, but also you can hit that marker that you've worked hard to work out that you can brake at the 210 meter board. You want to be able to do that every time consistently, and I think getting your brakes set up right is really important. So let's have a look at that. So we're going to go back into the options and have a look at the force feedback and the pedals. So the first thing we want to look at here, you see we've got brakes and we've got force factor, and it's currently set on 1.8. You can see at the bottom there it says it's adjust to control your brake's response to pedal input. Suggested values are 1.6 for 2 for potentiometer and spring pedals, and 0 for linear, so load cells. So with that in mind, because I run Fanatec load cell pedals, I'm going to run that all the way to 0. It is 1.8 by default. If you're running, you know, the non-load cell spring pedals, make sure that you find somewhere comfortable for that. It just helps you to not lock up immediately all the time. It gives you a little bit more feel in those pedals. But as we're running load cells, we're going to run that all the way down to 0, and you can see my brake pedal there. It takes a lot of force to get me all the way up to 0, but there it is. If I just apply a little bit of brake pressure and try and keep that consistent, if I slide that up, you see the brake pressure coming off. I'm not moving my foot at all, but I want that to be accurate to what I've got in the load cell. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is trading paints. I've covered this very briefly in another video, but I know what you're thinking. You can see this Ferrari right now and you're thinking, wow, that is an amazing custom livery and I wish I could see that in game. I'm going to show you how it works, how easy it is, and the difference it will make. So these are the two things I want to show you straight away. I already have trading paints installed. That is all that you get when it's installed, and it just runs in the background. I'd recommend you tick start trading paints on system startup, and you tick automatically fresh paints. I will minimize that and come back to it. So all you need to do is go to tradingpaints.com. You can download Trading Paints. It's a really quick download, and then that loads that system, that box that you just saw, onto your system. It runs in the background. It uses very, very minimal CPU power, and that means that anybody that's running Trading Paints, which is basically everyone in iRacing, that has a custom paint, it allows you to see their custom paint. And if you've got a custom paint, it allows everyone else to see yours. If anyone's in the race that doesn't have trading paints, then it will just revert back to the default iRacing paints. So the cars will always be there and they'll always have something on them, but trading paints, as I'm about to show you very quickly, means you can have basically anything. So once you've got trading paints installed on your system, you just go to the dashboard, you're having a look at the showroom, and you can literally have a look at what you want. So let's have a look at the 488 GT3 that we were just in. We'll load that. That is the paint that I just showed you, which is the one that we run for Rocket Chicken Racing. But what if you don't want to make your own, you just want to run a cool livery? So we've gone to showroom and we've gone to explore paints. And here's the first thing that you're greeted with. But if we were looking for a specific vehicle, let's just keep picking on the Ferrari. We can choose that. And here we go. Here are the paints that are available, and you can scroll through and there will be a lot. If you find one you like, who doesn't like Snickers? You can choose it. There's usually some screenshots, and all you do is you click on race this paint. That'll download the paint. It's almost instant, to be honest, and the next time you load the sim, that'll be the paint on your car. So here is an example of the difference that trading paints can make to your game. This was a rookie race at Alton Park I did a couple of weeks ago, and this is without trading paints running. You can see all of the cars using the stock iRacing liveries and sponsorship. We were here, and my livery shouldn't change, just to show you. And even in rookies, this is rookie license racing where people are new to the game. Let's take a look at the difference when we load trading paints. So here you go, you can see them changing before your very eyes. So the way the system works is at the start of the session normally, this is obviously a replay, it would download the relevant paints for every car that's in the session. And you can see there that they've already changed. Here we are still in our standard livery, but we've got some new ones here that are definitely not standard, and some other here that are definitely not, and a couple that have remained as they were. Probably because we're in rookie Mazdas and these people might not be aware. Hopefully they'll watch this video. But you can see it just makes the game feel more realistic, different liveries. It also just makes it a little bit more visually exciting that you can have a look around and see some different and some pretty cool liveries at times, I have to say. So the last thing I want to talk about, again, another free add-on, is Crew Chief. If you've not heard of Crew Chief, it is awesome. The spotter that comes as standard in iRacing is actually very good. It does its job well and it works. Again, just like all these changes we're making, you don't need this, but what Crew Chief does is just gives you a much more elaborate spotter. But not only does it do your spotting, as you progress into iRacing, it can also do things like run and set the amount of fuel you need at a pit stop for your longer endurance races. It will give you a readout of where and who's been involved in accidents as well. So the first thing you need to do is just go to thecrewchief.org, and then we're going to download Crew Chief for PC. So if it's the first time you've ever used Crew Chief, you'll also have to download driver names and personalizations. So it's a really easy piece of software to use, and I'll just run you through the real basics to get it set up and running. There's plenty of videos out there that take you into a lot more detail of just the amount of stuff that this can do for you. So, as you can see, there's a huge number of games that Crew Chief works with, and all you need to do is roll through this until you get to iRacing, choose iRacing, you can choose a name, choose your chief voice, set as Jim, and I use Claire as a spotter, but again you can keep it as Jim, and that's it, you've got it set to iRacing, and you just click on Start Application.
Radio check.
Spotter, radio check.
I can hear them just fine, and it's all ready to go. So we're in the sim, and the first thing we need to do, it will say like this ongoing, but because this is the first time we're running Crew Chief in iRacing, we just need to go to Options, down to Sound, and we're going to choose untick Enable Spotter, because we're now using the Crew Chief spotter.
Pit lane speed limit is 72 kilometers per hour.
So you can hear Jim in our ear there, just telling us about the pit lane speed limit. The Crew Chief spotter is really good, you know, it does all the basics that the iRacing spotter does. It just gives you that little bit more, there's some realism to it as well, the way they talk to you. You can enable swear words and things like that if that's your bag. But also if you're locking up consistently at a particular corner, you can enable that and it'll tell you those sort of things, just like you would get from a real race engineer. Probably have a look to see what happens if we have a little accident.
Need to slow down, give back some time. Bad luck, Chris. That looked bad. Are you okay? They're showing the meatball flag. We'll need to come into the pits for repairs.
That gives you an idea of the sort of things you can get in a practice session anyway from Crew Chief. So thanks very much for watching. Hopefully those 5 free tips are going to make a big difference to you. If you didn't know them, you might have known some of them already, but if they're new to you, I promise they'll make a big difference to how iRacing looks and feels going forward. If you did enjoy it, please do leave me a like or subscribe, or drop me a comment below or something else that you found useful to add on to iRacing in a similar vein. But thanks very much for watching.